What is up, my nerd family, and welcome back to another episode of Gamesymaspod, the podcast where we are talking about all things board games, video games, and pop culture. On today's episode, we are joined again here, who no stranger to the podcast, Joe. Thank you again so much for joining us, my man.
What's up, you guys? I'm the creator of Widgets and Digits and Tactile from Friendly Bee Game Company.
There you
go.
go.
Here you go here. These are our game portfolio, and I'm happy to be joining my man Vic over here for another episode talking about board games.
Let's go. I'm super excited. I always love it when I have you and Alex over, and it's so much fun. You guys bring so much energy to this podcast, and oh man, it's so much good stuff, and I'm so excited. Today we're going to be talking about abstract board games, and if you're wondering what is abstract board games, well, you're in the right place, because our man Joe here is going to be explaining to us what abstract board games are, the whole world of abstract board games. Maybe if you're current owner of these board games, you can give us some experiences on the comments below as well. So thank you so much for watching and listening. So with all that then being said, let's pull up a chair, grab some dice y acompáñame a jugar.
All right, so the name of the cast is Abstract Board Game.
Abstract board games.
I feel like we should take a minute here and just define what is an abstract board game, because I think it's there's a lot of games that are abstract board games but in disguise, because I do think most games try to avoid kind of the traditional just shapes and colors of a classic abstract, like the checkers and the chess that everybody grew up playing. So, but there are still a lot of games that have that kind of that core abstractiness to them. So I guess what would you say are your top 3 abstracts that you can think of?
So before I list that, you have a listener here, me, who I would like for you to define what an abstract game is considered, because I'm vaguely familiar with abstract games. The only one that comes to mind that's popular is chess.
Chess is that's probably the most classic abstract that people think of. Right. And then, right next to it, people think of checkers or the variations on it that exist. Yeah. There's also a bunch of, I feel like a lot of old classics like Go is an abstract, Othello is an abstract. Okay. But there's also a whole bunch of modern games that I think would fall under the category of abstract. The number one, according to BGG, the king of the abstracts, and a bunch of people are probably going to be thinking it right when I say this, is Azul.
Really?
You played Azul?
Yeah, I played
Azul.
Azul
is 100% an abstract. Right?
Okay.
And I guess the question is, what makes a game an abstract?
Yeah, what is an abstract game?
I would even argue games like Cascadia are abstract.
Really? Okay, interesting.
And then of course you have your games like Quirkle is an abstract. And I recently played a whole bunch of new games that are abstracts. And it's funny because a game could be an abstract game and just have crazy components and everything else, and it's still abstract. Mythic Mischief is probably one of the newest. That's 100% an abstract strategy game.
So are we talking? Is abstract only maybe limited to 2-player games?
No, definitely not, because you can have multiplayer abstracts for sure.
Okay.
I think what makes a game an abstract is these are games where you're planning, you're always planning a bunch of moves ahead. Okay. Right? And I think whenever it's interesting, I guess there's a lot of crossover with other games, because everybody who plays a strategy game is I plan a bunch of moves ahead. So I don't think that makes it an abstract. But
I think ahead in Monopoly is that abstract.
Yeah, that's true. That's
so
true.
It's
I guess it is kind of hard to define when you think about it. But 100%. Mythic Mischief is an abstract. Azul's an abstract. What are some other popular? I just played That Time You Killed Me, which is a great abstract-y game.
Never heard that game.
That was super fun and interesting. I just played Santorini's an abstract, and I gotta say that game is elegant. Definitely, I played it for the first time a week ago with my buddy Saul, and that's a very elegant abstract game.
Really interesting.
I guess.
I've always seen the box, but I was like,
no, it's real simple in terms of, what makes an abstract is I feel like it's just the ratio of amount of rules you have to learn to amount of strategy that actually exists on the board. Yeah. And I feel like with abstracts, it's generally there's tile movement is a very common theme in abstracts, where in like in a checkers or a chess situation where you have a board and a grid and you're trying to plan out how you're navigating that. That's usually super common. So tile movement is a common abstract theme. Tile placement is another common abstract theme. So this is where I'm thinking like a Quirkle, right? And Azul is a tile placement game. Right. I guess you could even... I'm trying to think of some other tile placement. Cascadia is technically a tile placement game. Yeah, man. I guess I'm having a hard time saying specifically what
'cause
makes it abstract.
When I think abstract, something I always think of like abstract art.
That's
something.
true.
So I'm like thinking of like
Oh.
things that are like out of the ordinary, kind of like thinkative, kind of like more like strategic, more of like it makes you think. So like abstract art is like you're looking at an art piece, but you're thinking. What is it conveying? It's making you think about this art. Where it's like you have like regular paintings where it's like oh, this is a painting of a tree. Like okay, cool. Like I don't think much about that. It's a
I
tree.
love that. I can't think of many games with abstract art though. I feel like
that's why I'm just like I'm struggling with that. I mean, Azul has some colorful designs to it as well. It's like
it has that patterny.
The patterny is not,
but it's because it's leaning into like the Portuguese like history of it, right?
Yes. So it's like okay, I can see how Azul would be. Abstract a little bit if we're looking at like the art aspect. I mean, like chess is not really chess is just chess. Like, I mean, you could have abstract art, like the pieces be different. I guess
I've seen like kind of cool like modern pieces for chess where it's like instead of like the normal shapes, they're like cubes and at various lengths.
Oh yeah, for
very
sure.
modern,
Definitely. Abstract games like they're very
hard to define.
Hard to define. Very abstract to define. Yeah,
you gotta really get theoretical with it.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta really think about it from different lenses.
Really think about it. We could also go with we said tile placement. We like with tactile as well, like abstract-y type of game that you created here.
Right.
Widgets and digits is an abstract.
No, Widgets and Digits is more of an experience type game.
Yeah.
So the way I think about it is like there are games which are trying to like create an experience for you, right? Like think about Betrayal, right?
Okay.
Betrayal is a classic experience game.
Yeah.
It's meant to have you experience what it's like to explore this like haunted house, right? Your characters are going to give you some persona, and like as you're revealing the house and like triggering spooky things happening.
Okay, right.
Right? Like there's strategy to it.
Right.
Absolutely, it's a strategy game, but it's meant to make you feel
More
this
immersed,
experience, right?
Yeah.
That's the experience it's trying to create. And I would say Widgets and Digits is an experience-driven game because the goal of the game, while there is the strategy of like trying to optimize your supply chains, it's to make you feel like you're running a business, right? And like you have to create your own product, and you got to market it a little bit, and you've got to you have to deal with your supply chain issues and your worker issues, right? And it's meant to make you feel like you're running a business, and that's the number one feedback I get when people play it. Is that I feel like I'm running a business.
Yeah. Like,
you know,
cool. I'm a CEO. Nice.
Yeah, I feel like a CEO. It's like that's what it's going for.
Perfect.
And then I feel like maybe abstract strategy games like it's much more pure about like the strategy. Like you're gonna really immerse into like the strategy of the game. And I feel like a lot of the abstract strategy games, whether they have a theme or don't, like the theme is always kind of like, it could be that theme, it could be something else. It's really just about like whatever we're doing here. You know?
Like you think maybe it's like less immersion, more thinking. Less immersion, more thinking of moves, more thinking of strategy. Yeah, there's a storyline there, but that's like the main focus of the game. The main focus of the game is
I'm trying
plan
to
your moves, beat your opponent, be one step ahead of them.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Which there's that again. Christian had this other game. It was like a chess game, but it's like
chess is a great.
Chess is like it's like a perfect
I got a chess hot take question too. As well,
let's hear. I want to hear.
Well, okay. So this is a thing that comes up a lot when we talk about board game complexity.
Right.
And I feel like when you talk about a game and you're trying to assign a complexity rating, there's two elements I think about. One is how long does it take me to learn the rules, and two, what is the skill cap of the game, and how much do I need to understand this game before I feel like I am close to mastering it, right? Or like at least playing at the highest level. Right. Okay. And I guess my question is when how do people typically define the complexity of a game? And I will put that a little bit more specifically. What complexity would you give chess?
Chess. Are we talking complexity to learn it or complexity to master?
Well, this is why I'm at. Yeah, this is the problem, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Because I feel like chess it falls into this weird category where like there's 8 pieces, right? There's 8 actions to learn.
Okay.
Right, and you're only doing one action a turn.
Right.
That doesn't sound that hard. I mean, compared to Cards Against Humanity, it's not a 0 out of 5.
Right.
But like compared to some of the other games we got on this wall here, right? Like,
I mean, like,
that's not that bad.
No, like I mean, there's no Twilight Imperium or some other bigger games where it's like you got to learn.
But would you
complexity rules?
Would you rate chess a 1 out of 5 complexity? or a 1.5 out of 5.
Man. Okay, so then if we're going learning wise, I give it like maybe like a 2.
Yeah.
Of a complexity of learning.
That's fair.
Because
That's fair.
you just need to learn what each piece does,
Right.
and that's it. And then just follow the rules. Like, oh, if I move here and there's a piece here, I can take it because it does this. You're just taking pieces. Mastery wise, I think it might be like a 5.
It's got to be the top. Yeah,
like
like
the top,
that.
like-
It has
like-
the most insane skill cap of like any game.
yeah, 'cause, like-
it's like chess and Go are like
Yeah.
the two
Oh, yeah. Oh, man,
like
Go.
highest skill cap games there are.
I don't
right?
even bother learning Go because I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna
I mean, I kind of want to learn. It sounds interesting, but
I know, like,
I've
the-
only ever heard that it's crazy. Right?
It is super crazy. I know. I've like tried learning the basics, and then I was like, this is gonna be hard to like master. I'm not gonna. I'm
Yeah, I'm not even gonna play around.
I'll
with
go
it.
back to chess. I like
I'll go
playing
back
chess.
to.
Yeah, like with that game, yeah, mastering wise, yeah, 5 because I mean, you have your grandmasters, you have your international masters, you have everyone with their LEO of like
Right.
6 billion and above.
And so that's something that I think I have an issue. It's difficult for me to categorize the complexity of games
Right.
because I think you have to think about both elements. How hard is it to learn and how hard is it to master? Because I actually think the complexity is a big part of people's enjoyment of a game,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Just because it's easy to learn the rules to something, I think people also want to be good at the game,
Right.
I think that's a lot of having fun is like you're good at executing the strategies
Yeah.
that you need to pull
Right,
off.
right.
And I think that's why I actually think a lot of people have a hard time getting people into chess, right? Because the complexity to learn is low,
Yeah.
but the skill cap is so high that a lot of people will have a bad experience the first time they play it, right? Because they're going to just get dunked on.
Oh no, I agree.
You know,
Yeah,
like, and they're gonna get dunked on forever, and
Yeah.
like it's so hard to catch up to someone
Yeah.
who's been playing the
good,
game
yeah.
for a while. But yeah, so that kind of when I think about that's where I think like the BGG rating for games can be tough sometimes.
Yeah,
because
no.
I feel like everyone focuses really hard on the rules element,
Right.
Like how long did it take me to learn how to play this game? How
Right,
long did
right.
it take me to learn how to play? But I also think skill cap is something people need to be thinking about
Okay,
as
okay.
well, because I think that's a big factor in like whether people are going to enjoy it. You know,
Do you think card games fall into the abstract kind of category of gaming?
I think card games, I mean, generally more like they're the card game. Unless you're using the cards to like form a board or something.
Oh.
I've seen that happen sometimes,
Okay,
but
okay.
like most of the time card games are like, it's like a trick taking or something
Trick-taking.
else, which is its
something
own
of
kind
like
category.
Magic the Gathering.
Oh,
like-
yeah, Magic's its own thing.
It's like
for
its own
sure.
world, huh?
Yeah,
Like,
that'd be like I don't know if TCGs are their own category, but I
They
feel like
might be.
that would probably be.
Because it's not like it's not. You are thinking, you are strategizing, and figuring out what to play.
They have like a whole different element too, though,
It
which is
is,
like
yeah.
the deck building.
Yeah,
'Cause,
deck building, yeah.
Like like there's games like Dominion where deck building's part of the game,
Mm-hmm.
but TCGs like the deck building happens before the game itself.
Gotcha,
Like
yeah.
I feel like half the strategy with TCGs is just like creating the deck, then showing up and hoping you draw the right things that it kind of comes out, which is interesting.
Okay. So TCG is kind of their own thing. There are a lot. I guess that's why, like in my collection, I guess I don't have that much abstract-ish games.
I don't know. Honestly, I've barely played. You've got so many
yeah.
games, man.
But
I have a hard time.
But like according to like your definition of like abstract and like thinking wise,
I'm glad that we started talking about it because now I'm realizing I don't have much of a definition for abstract. The moment you're like define it, I was like,
you're like yes. Chess.
They have strategy and they're like chess sometimes.
You think no, but I like what you said where it's like a comparison of widgets and digits to tactile, where
I think it's the objective of what you want out of the game.
the immersion and then there's immersion and there's thinking, and like I
Right.
feel like for me I lean more towards. I love the more immersion. I love the more storytelling. The more
you're feeling like an experience, and then there's strategy within it. But then a lot of times it's more constrained.
No,
it's,
I
it's
agree.
more you have a limited number of decisions
Right,
within
right.
at a given moment, right?
Like with
and I
Azul,
feel
yeah.
like that is something you see with abstracts. Perfect information. It's almost always perfect information.
Yeah.
Like all the information you're gonna need to solve that game is available from the first minute of the game, right?
like not
with-
a lot of random effects or
definitely virtually no randomness,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like when
yeah.
you think about Azul, right? Like when the factories get placed and all the tiles come out,
Yeah.
you could literally map, all the possible ways people could draft those
Yeah,
tiles
yeah,
from
yeah,
the
yeah.
minute they get placed,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And like that's a classic example of
And then just building your map and making sure that you get
and
the
like
points.
same thing with Mythic Mischief, you know, like once everybody's placed on the board, like you could map out all the possible movement patterns everybody could possibly take, right?
I love that game. That game's fun.
Yeah,
Mythic
it's
Mischief is
it's
fun.
fun. I do love those games where there's a bunch of different options and everything. And
Very
like,
chessy
I love when
wise.
you add in like the factions and you can have like the different abilities as
Christian
well.
had that game. He introduced me to that game, and I'm like, this is very chessy, very piece moving. Watch out for the.
So that's
librarian.
that tile movement. And so for me, I love tile movement as like a mechanic, which is
Okay.
what you get in Mythic Mischief, where you have to like plan all your different routes,
okay,
right? Or
right.
like chess, where you have to plan all the
Right.
different routes of the pieces. And like if you ever play Santorini's another. It's the same kind of movement planning.
Okay.
And I think I love that because there's so much complexity and the different ways you can get around a board
Right.
that you open up so many different avenues
Yeah.
of what can happen. And
Right.
I think that's where you get massive leaps
Right.
in potential like complexity and decisions you might have to make.
I think that could be a factor of abstract games where it's like the rules are fairly simple, but like the possibilities are
Possibilities are so many.
Are so many, like endless possibilities. Good replayability games that you
right.
can enjoy. I think like what was it? Carcassonne. I think I have Carcassonne somewhere.
I've never played Carcassonne, but
Carcassonne-
I've heard it's
Yeah.
classic, right?
Classic game where it's tile placement, where you're creating the purpose of the game is to build castles. But in order to build castles, you're placing tiles down, and like each tile has like different like edges of castles, and so you're trying to like connect the castles, and you connect them
Do
all.
you have like all the tiles in the beginning, or do you have to draft them each turn?
So I think it's more random. So you should start off with a certain amount of tiles, and then once you place one down, you pick one up. It's been a while since I played, but it was a fun one. It's like like one where like you place a tile, you have your tiles, you have the map, and then your other opponent is trying to build their castles too. And so like you could like the strategy is you're placing your tiles down, and then if your opponent places a tile near you that like expands your castle, you can close off the castle using his tiles. And so you build like this big castle. And once you close off a castle, that's points for you. And then like you can like manipulate his tiles to like make it like you could trick it, like you can like if you could see that he's building a tile like a castle, a castle, you could place down another castle tile screwing up his castle because now he can't close it. Now he has to go around. Yeah. So it's like I guess
Bricked.
yeah, exactly. So it's like
Wait, do you start with all the tiles you're gonna get, or do you have to draft them like each turn?
I think you draft them each turn.
Draft them.
You draft from each turn. I mean, I could be wrong. Don't come after me, guys. It's
Rules
been-
police, get
yeah,
in here.
Yeah. I haven't played in a while, so please. It's been such a long time. I played and like it's fun. I think we need to whip it out and play sometime. But it's I think it's a little bit abstract-y because it's like it's very there's endless possibilities. So like whenever you play again, the map will be different because you're getting different tiles.
I love the
You're
modular
building. Yeah, you're building.
setups you can get.
So
I think with abstract, I think you hit one of the big pieces of it, which is like that perfect information component.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
when you have all the information from the beginning of the round or from the beginning of the game, and then it's just how far ahead you can plan. I think that's very classic abstract strategy.
No, I agree, and I mean, I love them. I love those type of board games. It's not games that I gravitate towards more, like how we said. Like it's more. I if you guys know me and have been watching our podcast, I'm more of like storytelling. I love storytelling. I love
Love the
immersion.
story. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's part of the fun of board games, though, is that it's like you get to create your own world coming out of a box. Right?
Exactly,
You get to experience. It's I think that's why we play games. You get to experience many different lives.
I
right?
agree. Nothing wrong with abstract games. Like I would play an abstract game any day over maybe playing a video game. I love playing board games more with video games. Don't get me wrong. I love video games all day. I love streaming. Check out our stream channel. Hey, plug right there.
Let's go.
Like I said, if we're comparing, more immersion for me, I'll still own abstract games. And I like playing for sure. Which I guess we can segue with Tactile. With the creation
let
of
me
Tactile.
give a little overview. Yeah, so
Yeah.
me, I loved Crunch. I'm a cruncher. It's my favorite. I love turn-based strategy because I love to think and plan everything out. I love to lay down the dominoes and then hit that domino and watch them all fall. That's my favorite. I love that, and you'll notice in games I work on, like you'll see there's elements of that. There's a lot of like planning far in the future, laying down those dominoes so you can tip
Letting
them
them
and then
fall.
watch it all come together for some
Beautiful.
epic turns. I love that when that happens. That's my
Yes.
favorite.
Yeah.
And Tactile is that to a T. So Tactile is an abstract strategy engine builder, which is a bit of a unique mashup of categories. Because for those of you who don't know what engine building is, like that's what you see in games like Scythe and Wingspan, the classic engine building game, or like even Catan has elements of engine building.
Yeah.
engine building is where you get usually you get resources and you can invest those resources back into your engine or what's producing you those things and allow it to and improve it so that next time you do that you get more, right? That is the classic framework of engine building.
Perfect, yeah.
So like with Wingspan, for those of you who've played, it's like you have a row ability that lets you get food. And as you invest more into that row ability, every time you take it, you get more food. Plus, you get other things because you have the card abilities that stack, right? With Tactile, unlike the kind of classic engine building setup where, you know, you got your thing that gives you food or wood, and as you invest into it, you get more food and more wood. Tactile, you're basically investing actions, and what happens is you can buy cards that give you actions. As the game goes on, you'll get more and more of them, and they're triggered by moving on different colored tiles, sort of like you see on this cover, this logo here of the different colored tiles. So if you buy like red cards, every time you move on red tiles, you get to use all those actions. So what ends up happening is as the game goes on, you can do more and more actions because the cards never go away. You get one action per card. And what ends up happening is you can do crazier and crazier turns with more and more actions as long as you're able to move on the right tiles. So kind of comboing your movements together and being able to activate multiple cards and being in the right position in order to do so is really critical to the strategy of the game. Okay. And that's where it's really fun and interesting because I feel like the game expands in kind of complexity and chaos and strategy as it grows, as it continues, because you're engine building into your capability, which is kind of a really fun and unique take on it.
Okay,
which,
interesting.
Which has been a good time.
I think it's a good chain sequence game where it's like you're building you're getting cards, you're getting actions. And all to like have like this chain of sequence of events where it's like now if I move my tile here in this color, it's gonna you've activated the trap card.
You're knocking those dominoes over.
You're knocking those dominoes over. Now I can do this, which activates this, and you just have this big turn.
And this is kind of comes back to that whole complexity conversation before, where the actual game is really easy to learn. There's only 6 actions, right? So it's one of those things where I've taught it I usually teach it in about 2 minutes. I've played it with 8-year-olds. I've played it with 80-year-olds. It's a very quick teach because complexity-wise is very easy, right? But then, because you have to kind of plan ahead that your thing is going to trigger that thing, which is going to trigger that thing, which is going to trigger that thing, and at some point you might have like 8 cards, which is 8 actions you have to plan ahead for. There is a lot of complexity that really builds up over time. So I think from a rules perspective, it's very quick and easy, but from like the depth of understanding how to build that engine, the positions that you want to be to get full efficiency, how you want to sequence and order things, there's a ton of complexity that builds out as the game goes on.
Okay, interesting. And like with the tiles you have that you've created with for the boards, essentially the tile board.
Oh yeah, modular boards. Different every time.
Different every single time. When creating this game, is that what you had in mind, or did you you wanted maybe?
Oh yeah, so
cards
I love modular boards. Like I grew up playing Catan all the time. And I think modular boards is like the most replayability you can get out of a game.
Sure.
Like if you're just literally remaking the game, I love Betrayal because it's modular. I love Catan because it's modular. Every time I play a modular game, I'm like, this is peak gaming. Because like I feel like you can play it a million times, it's always a different game.
Right.
So if I can, I always want to try to make a modular setup. I think you just get so much more fun out of it. So yeah, it's interesting. So I'll tell you the backstory of kind of how this game came to be.
Yeah.
So I was working on Widgets and Digits with Alex, and while we were building Widgets and Digits, we were trying to really make the game as perfect as it could be, right? Like when you're designing a game, you want this game to be the best game ever. Right. And so we had this kind of core framework to the game, which is the supply chain. And there's 2 types of testing you want to do when you're making a game. So there's destructive testing and constructive testing. Okay. So destructive testing is, what are the ways I break the game? What are the ways that like, this sequence of doing this makes the game not work, right? And that's probably most of the testing people do when they play a game, right? Is like, what are all the different weird things I can do? Will it break the game? Will it make it not? Will we find a stalemate? Will we find an infinite loop? Right. And if once you fix all those, most people are like, great, we fixed everything, it's good. The second type of testing, the constructive testing, what are the ways we could make this game better? What are the things we could add to it? What are the different things that we haven't tried yet, which would improve the experience? That's the secret sauce of making a great board game. Because you really want to try okay, so it works as is, it's fixed, but could it be better? Could I do more?
Yeah.
Could I add in like events? Could I add in factions? Could I add in, what can we try that would make this more exciting and interesting?
Yeah.
So with Witches and Ditches, we tried a million different things, and only the top 10% of ideas actually made it to the game, the ones that were super fun and people really liked.
Right.
But one of the ideas that was a real winner was card abilities, right?
Oh, okay.
So, when you're playing a game like Wingspan or Magic the Gathering or Terraforming Mars, these games where you have cards and you can buy them and they have abilities, it's super fun and people love it.
Right.
That was definitely the winner, and that became the boardroom battle pack that's in Widgets and Digits.
Right. Okay,
we found that abilities are so fun and people love it, and so that became one of the best expansions and is part of the game. The only problem is that's an expansion. Right.
Yeah,
and
right.
so when you have something that's an expansion, not everybody's going to get to experience it. Right. This is probably one of the most fun elements of the game. And only people that play it for, the second time or the third time and make it to the expansions will actually get to experience it.
Right.
So my thought process was, how could you, and I noticed this. Typically, only in more complex games do you even see card abilities, right? Like Wingspan's a more complex game, right?
Yeah,
Terraforming Mars is definitely a more complex game.
Oh, for sure.
I would argue Magic the Gathering is a pretty complex game.
Yeah.
It's tough to break out with new players or people that don't play a lot of games.
Yeah.
So what I like to do with designing is take mechanics and things that everybody likes and think, how can you just lower the barrier to entry? How do you take this out of the world of expansions and complex games? How do you bring this to what's the simplest possible way you could bring this idea to life?
Right.
And so I thought about it like this. So an ability is really just trying to pull a lever, right?
Right.
It's trying to, if I get wood, my ability, I get an extra wood, right? So getting resources is a lever you can pull. So I thought, what is the simplest possible? In order to have a lever, you need to have an objective.
Yeah.
So what's the simplest objective a game could have? Get to the other side.
Yeah.
Right. Cross the road.
Simple,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So say you're gonna have that's your objective. Cross the road. You probably in order to have cards to buy, you need to have resources.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, you probably need 3 or 4 different resource options. Maybe 3 or 4 tile colors, okay? And then in abilities that would be useful, maybe, if you're trying to get across the road faster. Extra moves would be good.
Yeah.
If other people are moving, you probably want to stop them from moving.
Yeah.
So the ability to push them back, maybe.
Definitely, yeah.
And then if you're getting resources, the ability to get extra resources is always good. Boom, you got 3 abilities: move, push, gain.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I think that's all you need. What if this was the game? Try to cross the road. You can buy cards with these abilities, and then the key element here was triggering them on certain colors.
Yeah, right.
And I thought it would be more fun that they never go away, and it's a once per turn, and so you can just get tons and tons of abilities.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening is by going from a world of Wingspan and Terraforming Mars where you have a million abilities and a couple of them combo, but you got to kind of search for it, to this world of there's only a few abilities, but they all combo, and you can just stack a huge crazy combo.
Yeah.
It turned out to be super fun, crazy game experience.
Interesting. And so obviously when it comes to that, you had to think and overlook everything to make sure there was no loopholes with the game. Obviously, if you you didn't want something where if I did a move, it'd break the game because you're like,
Right.
oh wait. So how did you create a grid or an Excel sheet or something where it's
You know what? That kind of stuff, you just have to play test a million times.
and just see what works?
Yeah,
what
you just
doesn't
got to
work?
play it a million times.
Okay.
You just got to be like, all right, we're going to be stupid this time.
Yeah.
Let's just see what happens. You
Okay,
know?
okay. So when you came up with the moves, so you said you came up with the 4 moves, the push.
Yeah, the move push gain is the 3 cards you can
3
get.
cards, and so you went with that, and you said, okay, let's see what would work with what would and so so that would be play
What was
testing.
interesting, yeah. So playtesting, you just test the heck out of it and see if there's ways that it can be broken. What was interesting though is that it's a very pure and simple framework. And the thing about pure and simple frameworks is that sometimes they work really well, right?
Yeah.
Like this framework was tight. I had to fix a couple things just in terms of like fine tuning the length of game. That was perfect. Which what is the right number of tiles to get the game the right length of game? What's the right number of pawns to score? You'll notice there's certain different objectives for different player counts because you have to kind of fine tune so that the experiences are about the same across different groups of players. Which can make a huge difference, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So like a lot of those fine-tuning details needed to be like tweaked and fixed, and you basically just play games and you're like, was that fun? What did we like? What did we not like about it? Okay, how could we maybe fix the stuff we didn't like as much? And then kind of mess around with those details. But the core of the game was always kind of worked, right? Which was great. And so then it was more about refining the little elements and then trying different additions and ways to make the game more fun, which is actually the game mode that had the most tweaks and refinements was actually the 4-player game.
Really?
So I think you mentioned this earlier. You said abstracts tend to be 2 players, and I say no, not always.
Wrong.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of abstracts that do more than 2 players. But I think one thing about Tactile is that I think the 4-player game mode, I think the core game of Tactile is super fun. I love the game. I play it all the time. The 4-player game of Tactile, though, is like...
It's a whole different beast.
It's a whole different beast.
Yeah.
It's like... If this is... I would think that if there's a reason why Tactile blows up, I think it's going to be 4 players. Right?
No, I agree. Yeah.
Because I think it does a couple things differently. First off, it is a team game mode, which I've found is a very controversial topic for some people.
Yeah.
Because some people only like free for all. Some people love being able to work together with other people.
Yeah.
So here's my take on it. I don't actually normally like cooperative games. I feel like I'm like a lot of other gamers where like there's some general challenges with cooperative play, right? Like you tend to have, it's hard to get 5 people to work together, and yet everybody gets a chance to work their own strategy, right? Like that can be a challenge, right? Like if you played Pandemic, sometimes everybody works and coordinates really well together. Sometimes somebody kind of dominates the conversation, right? With Tactile, though, there's a couple reasons why cooperation works really well. One is it's not big groups. It's not all 4 people working together. It's 2v2. So it's I would argue it's team competitive. So not quite cooperative. It's team competitive.
Right.
So only having one person to work with is great for cooperation. It's just one person to kind of talk strategy with. You're always in the conversation. Number 2, Tactile is a game that has an absurd amount of things to think about in a given moment, right? It's really hard in the late game to map out your full strategy. And when people are playing this game for the first, second, third time, even now, I played the game over 100 times, it's really helpful to talk to somebody about your strategy. When you're learning the game, it's super helpful to talk to someone about your strategy. What I notice is that the 4-player games, people start to pick up the strategy way faster because they have a teammate to talk it through with, right? So small groups allow for good communication. The fact that it's 2v2 and not all 4 people working together, it still keeps a really nice competitive element to it. Like 1v1 has that perfect competition. 2v2 also has perfect competition. Yeah. But it also has another element of 1v1 is potentially too competitive, right? Unless you really like head-to-head games and you love... I feel like people tend to be salty when they lose a head-to-head battle. You know? I don't know if you've ever played... you play chess, but if you've ever played Clash Royale, like when you lose a 1v1, you're like... crap.
I get a little bit salty. I'm like,
I suck.
Like, I'm gonna throw my phone on the.
But when you have teammates, then it's like we suck. Yeah. It's not as bad.
I'm still salty for the play test we did. I'm still a little salty.
But that's the thing is like people get even spicier in team games. Like because now it's like you have an ally and you have people to talk crap with.
I loved the experience. It was fun learning the game. Christian loved it. Scott loved it. Omar loved it. I think he loved it a little too much because we're getting a little drink. Getting some drinks on, and Omar had a little too much drink, and Scott kept egging him on, saying, "Hey,
there are specific drinking rules to Tactile."
Yes, which you should mention.
It's a great bar game. It's a great bar game.
Yeah. So my teammate was a little incapacitated and not coherent, so it was more like 2v1 for me.
Yeah, that can make it challenging.
So Scott, you suck. sabotaged my teammate because you kept egging him on. To
But you were there to help save him, you know. So I think he had a great game because he was on your team, you know. So between the two of you, you know,
yeah. But I had a fun time. But no, yeah, I can see with the competitiveness with 1v1, and I think as a team building, team 2v2, it's a great way for communication, great way for strategic, seeing how each other thinks and how one rolls. You could also have that element where like one becomes the quarterback and kind of tells you like, hey, move here, do this here, something.
Yeah.
But it's still, you're still involved with the thinking process of like, okay, why do you want me to move there? Oh, you're right, because if I do this, I have this card.
I find it helps newer players catch up. It's a great setup for like, I feel like a lot of times it's like maybe, you know, if you're doing a couple's date or something and like, and like there's probably some people that aren't as into games and some people that are more into games.
Yeah.
It helps you keep like a really fun, challenging game, but kind of spread
definitely.
it out so that, you know, it's like a gamer with a non-gamer versus a gamer with a non-gamer.
That's a perfect.
I feel like a lot of 4-player, you know, game nights, it's tough to have all 4 people are hardcore gamers unless you've got that group going, right?
Yeah.
And even then it's perfect because then you have equal levels on both sides, and it's still going to be competitive and super fun.
And if you have that gamer group like that, let me know because I'd like to be part of that.
Yeah, I want to. Let's go. I'm ready.
Let's
I'm
have
ready
game
for
night.
my matchup.
Yeah, I have my hardcore gamer group that we meet Mondays. Every month, once a month. We try to meet once a month.
That's pretty good.
But yeah, I want more. I want more
Those
friends.
groups are the best.
I love those.
I love me some hardcore gamer
Exactly.
groups. I mean, it's so fun because then you can just get right into it, you
Got
know.
you.
But I mean, I think we've all been there in the struggle where like you don't have that group and you're just like, guys, we're gonna play this game. Trust me, you're gonna love it. There's not that many rules, you know.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know. Last time you whipped out this other game, you were bored.
How heavy's the box?
Yeah, like, you whipped out this big game, and I had to sort out all these tiles. I don't know. No, it's fun. It's fun. Trust me, it's a fun one. So when it comes, with this game, so obviously you kind of mentioned the player count. So 2 players or 4 players.
2, 3, or 4. It has
Two,
all 3.
So how does a 3-player game work?
So 3-player is everybody's going side to side. So it's hard for people to visualize, but it's a square grid, and then instead of in 2 and 4 you're trying to score diagonally.
Yeah.
In 3-player you're trying to score 1 pawn to either side. Right?
Oh, okay.
And so what it does is it actually shortens the distance you have to travel. So what it does is it causes the game to get intense really fast. Within 2 turns, you're running into other people, and it turns into a much more aggressive game.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it is 3 players. There's always that element of you kind of want to play possum a little bit, you know, like and that's the I say diplomacy is a resource in 3-player, you know, because like you can push other people, and there's 3 people, so there's a lot of shifting allegiances of like, oh, that guy's about to score, like we got to get him for sure.
Push him.
Ignore what's going on with me. I'm nowhere near it, and then you know, so there's a little bit of playing possum and shifting allegiances, which is super fun.
Okay,
but it's interesting because in 3-player, what happens a lot in Tactile, especially when you get to the multiplayer counts, is it's like you are always trying to prevent the next person from winning on their turn.
Right.
You're like, they're about to win. I need to do certain actions to stop him from winning. But then if I do that, the guy to my right might win. So I'm going to screw you over. But then instead of like counterattacking me, you need to screw him over.
Yeah, definitely.
And it turns into a really like
a big bet.
All right, we're going to I'm going to screw you over, but don't take it personally. You got to screw him over. Otherwise, we both lose.
You got a whole little Game of Thrones web life.
And then it's really interesting to see how it goes.
Interesting. Okay, that's pretty cool. I'm curious to see how.
No, it's fun. I like it because the vibes are very different for all 3-player counts. So I will say, honestly, all 3 of them, you do need to be working as efficiently as you can from turn 1.
Gotcha.
But I will say when you're just beginning, 2-player definitely feels like it gives you a little bit more time to get settled and get your structures set up.
Get the foundation going.
Right. And so like 2-player gives you a little bit more time. You can like, all right, I can kind of relax. The board's a little bit more open. I can kind of get some of my engine going before I start to feel the pressure.
Right.
3-player, you feel the pressure by turn 2. So it's very funny because psychologically it messes with people. Like
really?
Especially if you're coming from 2-player, it's a whiplash moment of like, oh my gosh, like we're fighting already. I will say as an experienced player, you have more time than you think. But it doesn't feel like it, and it's really interesting. 4-player, I would say, is a right in the middle. Right, it's definitely a faster pace than 2-player, but it's also, it's you still have a little bit more time than 3-player before it starts getting intense right away.
Okay, interesting.
But one more thing I'll say about 4-player is there are 2 additional abilities that are available. One is the ability to push your allies forward. So typically pushes are just used to push opponents back, which
Right.
is like a defensive move.
Yeah.
It becomes a defensive or an offensive ability in 4, which is really interesting. I love the additional offensive nature of the 4-player. And then the second is you can swap cards with your allies.
Okay.
So their tableau is also in
that's
play.
right. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Interesting.
And both of those abilities really add a whole nother element to it, which is super fun.
So you would say recommendation if first time playing, give 1v1 a try, get the foundation.
I would actually recommend if it's your first time, I would get a 4-player game.
4-player game going? Okay.
4-player game is great because honestly, you have 2 people to talk through the strategy with, and I really think it's going to be a longer game because it is 4 people.
Right.
But I think it's a great way to learn together how to play.
Yeah.
And with Tactile, it's not about learning the rules. Everyone will learn the rules in 2 minutes. It's about learning the strategies and understanding how to actually
mastering the rules,
how to play defense, and how to go aggressively for the win. These things, it's not as intuitive as you might think. You got to going backwards can be more helpful than going forwards. Just going as far forward as I can is not. What if I don't go that far and I block this person?
Block. Yes.
So looking like those kind of strategies, it's helpful to kind of learn as a 4-player and wait a minute. Don't just try to brute force your way to victory.
Exactly.
Think about what your opponent's trying to do and try to screw them over.
Look where he's at. What is he doing? What? Look at his cards. What is he doing with his cards?
I feel like 4-player gets people, helps them learn those basics, and then 2-player, you're on your own, baby. You better let's go. It's time to win it or kill it. Though I will say, 2-player is great. It's 30 minutes or less, so you get a great game in.
No, man, I agree. You created Widgets Digits, a banger, and you followed it up with another banger.
Banger to banger, baby.
Tactile was such a fun game. I enjoyed playing and learning the rules. Very abstract, as you could say, and very chess-like minded, thinking of your moves, thinking of head.
I do love chess, so you definitely have that chess vibe.
You can feel it, and I love it, guys. And guys, you're on Kickstarter. You guys got fully funded.
On Kickstarter. We funded 3 hours. Woo!
3 hours. Look at that. Yes.
Yeah, definitely check us out. We're on for another couple weeks, so don't miss this one. It's going to be super fun.
Yeah.
We have a special backer gift as well. We have a really nice tile bag that's custom printed for the game. Gives you a great way to shuffle your tiles.
Nice.
Only on Kickstarter. So
only on Kickstarter. So go check that out, guys. I'll leave the links below for you guys to go. Click on that link. Follow them or follow Friendly Bee Gaming as well on Instagram and all socials, TikTok, YouTube. Get back Tactile, such a fun game. And while you're at it, also go give Widgets and Digits some love. It's a fun game. If everything we're talking about and you like the whole engine aspects that we alluded to earlier, check that out. Check that. You'll love Widgets and Digits. It's a fun game. I love it. I got my own copy of. Wait, what's over there? I was like, I got my own copy.
Signed copy.
I got a signed copy, first edition signed copy. I love it. It's awesome. Can't wait to get Tactile. Also get it signed as well. But it's a fun game. Thank you so much for sharing the backstory of Tactile. It's a good game. Any future expansions for that game, or is that kind of a game where it's kind of set and done?
I think right now I'm just going to focus on both Widgets and Digits and Tactile and kind of getting them into retail and just growing. So this is the year of new releases, and then next couple of years, the years of growing.
Growing. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any extra future updates for Tactile, like maybe adding maybe a 5 to 6 player count version?
So actually the player counts I like as is.
As is, okay.
I don't know. This is another hot take I have, but strategy games that are we play 6 players, and I'm like, so you're saying this is a 6-hour game? You know?
Oh, yeah, true, yeah.
I just feel like you get exponentially longer with each player that's added in. So I think 4-player is the tightest strategy circle you can have. In terms of updates and expansions, it would not necessarily be rules expansions, but maybe I do think a lot of people are what if it had tile as the material, because the main material of this is wood. So just messing around with different materials and
components.
I also think there could be different themed versions in the future if you did seasons and stuff.
Okay, cool. Okay.
I think this is the pure classic version.
Yeah.
So I think this is where I'd want to start, and then the future would all just be trying out different flavors of it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that you came up with a good game, a solid foundation game where it's you don't need extras to add more flavor to it. Like it's just a good classic game.
And
Like it's like with
there
chess.
could be expansions with the rules and stuff,
Yeah.
but it's kind of like, I don't know, when people come out with expansions on the chess rules, I'm like, I just want to play chess.
But back to Tactile, yeah, like I said, brilliant game. I loved it, man. Like
Thanks, man.
you came up with
Appreciate
another
it.
great game. You guys, it's another fun up and coming game that you guys should check out for sure. Widgets and Digits was great. Tactiles is great. Alex is coming up with a new game as well. I think he's in the process.
Alchemagica, he's cooking on it.
He's cooking it, so I can't wait to. bring that on.
TBD, future
exactly.
releases.
Another Friendly B gaming right there. It's gonna be a banger right there. So I'm very excited for that. And yeah, man, thank you for coming on the pod again, man. Again, you're no stranger. You're always welcome to come on the pod, talk some
Thanks,
board
Don.
games. Give us more content, bro. You always give us more ideas.
Hey, I always got some ideas. We're gonna do hot wings next.
Let's do it, bro. I'm super excited, dude. I'm like,
Hot wings and hot shots.
I know you're gonna be my consultant from now. I'm gonna hit you up.
Let's
like,
go.
Hey, I need
Content consultant,
I'm
baby.
like, hey, I need an idea for next week's episode. How about you do this? All right, bet. Let's go. But yeah, thank you again so much, guys.
Sure, man.
Check him out. Check him out. He's on socials again, as we mentioned. Friendly B Gaming. Check out on Kickstarter, Tactile. Support Widgets and Digits, man. Go support Alex as well with his stuff that he's coming out with. Alex, we love you, man. And
Big shout out, my man.
Yeah, man. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget, you guys can find us on all socials as well. You can find him we mentioned his socials. Let's mention our socials. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, Twitch. We stream as well. We mentioned streaming. Once again, thank you again so much, Joe, for
Hey, man, thanks for
coming.
hosting. This is the #1 pod. Make sure you're
Oh,
following.
man.
Make sure you're liking. Make sure you're subscribed. I haven't seen the Twitch yet. I should hop on that. That'd be fun.
It's under the Los Sad Boys.
Los Sad Boys, okay. I'll check it out.
Because we game with Scott and Omar sometimes. Sometimes I'll do some solo gaming. But yeah, I'll put more content on there as well for board gaming and stuff like that. But I'm always honored whenever you're on the pod, man. I love talking board games with you. You always bring the good vibes. I love it. This is not the last time. You're gonna see more of Joe for sure, guys. And
Let's go.
And yeah,
We'll get everybody. We'll get Alex back on.
get
Let's
Alex
go.
back on here. Get Friendly B Game Company up in here, man. Great stuff. And I'm very excited for the future for whatever you got in store. And Tactile is great. Check out Tactile, guys. And with all that being said, guys, nos vemos a la próxima.